Hello, this is Ursula Odom, and welcome to Wisdom and Young Legends. Oh, what a show we have for you today. The title of the show is Wisdom and Young Legend. And what that is about is that I heard someone say that the young person has all the strength and can cut the path, but the older person knows the way. And so, what I say is when you put the two together, you got a dynamic duo. And what a way to maximize on life is when you have the best of both working together. So, that's what we have today. We have multiple generations, and it may be two, may even be up to three. I'm not asking anybody's age, mind you, but I know that we probably have different memories about music, and we'll talk about that later. But first, let me introduce my guests and have them tell you who they are. I have the pleasure of joining me today, Jackie Perry of Perry and Associates, and Jada Williams. And Jada, I know you do other things, but I think of you as the chairperson of NABWIC Talks. So you're gonna have to tell us the rest of that story. So hello, and Miss Perry, would you start and tell us who you are, where did you grow up, and we'll get rolling.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Ursula. It's such a pleasure to be here. As already introduced, my name is Jackie Perry. And no, I won't tell my age, but I grew up so many years ago um, in a small town in North Florida called Gainesville. Actually, I was born in Gainesville, but actually grew up in Jacksonville. My folks came to Jacksonville shortly after I was born. So actually, I'm one of those rare individuals in our town that are actually a native of Jacksonville. I've been here all my life, except for maybe a 4 year period where my husband and I lived in a small town called Dothan, Alabama. But other than that, I've been here in Jacksonville. This is where I grew up. This is where I've seen history evolve and take shape right here. So that's a little bit. Oh, just a little bit more about me, though, just so you'll know. Um, I actually come from a family of 10 kids. I'm the youngest of 10. Fortunately for me, I was mostly raised, though, as a single child. So I wasn't with my brothers and sisters. So I was kind of spoiled a little bit, had my own way with some kind of semi-adopted parents there as I was growing up. But it was a wonderful life because I got to experience, or so you're talking about generations, the best of both worlds. I got to know my older brothers and sisters and some newer ones coming up.
And what do you do?
I am currently, I am an entrepreneur. So I run a couple of businesses. One is a small consulting company called J. Perry and Associates, where we deliver management support and assistance to small and upcoming businesses. The other one is a technology company where we do programming and software engineering, and that's mainly for the Department of Defense. So we're on the federal contracting side there, and I partner with one of my sons in that particular effort.
Cool. Now you just said something I'll be talking about later. Jada Williams. Hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're
And
welcome. Thank you. Now tell us about you.
okay, well, I'm Jada Williams. I am the owner of Kiss LS Inc., where I'm servicing over 2,200 clients in insurance, financial services, aka taxes, and I'm the voice. I'm the voice that helps connect the dots. I love helping motivate the motivators and working with leaders.
Listen at you
Yeah.
with your tagline.
I
I
learned,
love
I learned from the best.
it. All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun to start off with. When before the show started, Jackie, I think you were talking about music, and I said no, she didn't go there because what I wrote down is what I'd like for each of you to do, or for all of us to do, is to talk about the band music when you were growing up. For me, believe it or not, my favorite was Green Onion and Watermelon Man. Now that, yes, it does. But I had a good old time. And every time I hear that to this day, I'm rocking. So, Jackie, what was it for you?
Well, growing up for me, it was probably a couple of bands, but one of them that readily comes to mind is Sly and the Family Stone. I don't know if any of you remember them.
Yeah, I actually met them in New Orleans.
Oh, did you? Yeah. So
And
Sly
the
and the
reason I
Family Stone.
remember is because one of them told me, we were at an after party, and he told me his name was Geechee. I said, for real? That's your real name? And coming from the South Carolina area, I could not believe this
Oh
man.
yeah, that was Geechee. Yeah,
And
that.
I lost my cool, lost an opportunity to connect because I just laughed right there. And I had no cool whatsoever.
They're probably going, yeah, we're never going to invite you backstage.
That's right.
Right.
And
Yes.
Jada, what about you?
Well, for me, I don't know. So many bands scream. I don't have that many bands, so to say, but I do remember a lot listening to like TLC. And back then it was a lot of like into the videos, like MTV and BET had all the videos out back then. So we were hype on listening to or watching out for the newest Tupac video or the newest Janet Jackson or Michael Jackson video. It was more so the whole performance for me, not so much of a band, but like the artists and their whole entourage coming out on stage.
Okay, so I had to live that generation too because I had daughters apparently around the same time frame, because the one that came to mind for me was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yes.
You know, everybody.
Every move.
Every move. I had to watch that over and over and over again. And one of my daughters was actually in the band. So, and she played piccolo. Littlest thing, she was the second from the smallest on the field, believe it or not, and had the smallest instrument that was the loudest. And that was so in line with who she was. And I'm really thinking about Danielle. And Danielle could talk like the Federal Express guy from back then. I don't know if you remember how he could talk so fast. Well, she could actually do that too. So those were those days. So what about dance?
Dance? Well, I already named Janet Jackson. I was learning all the Janet Jackson moves, all the Thrillers. I remember the Tootsie Roll.
Oh yeah.
Back then, the Tootsie Roll. And of course, I think the electric slide goes with everything, but it's the different version of the electric slide you actually do. Like, do you dip down with it? Do you come back with it? Do you lean up and shoot the basketball? So it's all about how you do
that. That's what they're doing. They're shooting the basketball.
I don't know, but that's what I call it. Like, I don't know. That's what I
That's
well, Ursula, you probably remember back in the day, for us, I'm going way back comparatively to Jada's time. It was Mike Hammer. Remember Mike Hammer? Can't touch this.
Oh, the Hammer move.
Yeah, I never knew what. To me,
So everybody wanted to do that, but of course, and then we kind of overlap a little bit because then it was, Michael Jackson come on the scene, and then everybody wanted to moonwalk and do all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I have one pair of Hammer pants, but that was more so because of my older cousins falling behind them.
Right? Yeah, Hammer pants and all that.
Well, I came along with Four Corners, the Bump, and I can't say that on. It's loose, I don't want to say it on my show right now, but we would swirl around, and there was a part of the body that moved around with it too. Now that one was really interesting for me because I visited my cousin in New York, And they were doing that dance, and I came back to college and I started doing it, and everybody looked at me like I lost my mind. They thought it was funny. They laughed at me, and guess what? They ended up doing it. So
They
I
ended up doing.
really brought a dance from New York to Florida.
So
So
the twerking of your time.
yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. You got it.
Hey, but do you all remember though? And I don't know if these are kind of timeless things. You just sort of never forget. So when I was growing up, though, coming up, the popular dances were things like, the mashed potatoes and the
Yes.
jerk and
Mhm.
and the twist. Those three things that kids, I guess, back in the 60s and 70s, again, that's the early years when I was growing up, would those would be really, really popular. So anywhere you went on the dance floor, you had to do, it's the jerk, the twist was
That's
very,
right.
very famous. So you remember the
Absolutely.
twist, Jada? You ever heard of that?
I remember it on TV and watching Grease and all of that type of stuff, but maybe watching my aunties.
Okay.
My aunts and my dad every weekend they would get together. I do remember that as a child. They would get together and on the weekends they would all hang out and listen to music. And I would listen to the old Marvin Gaye's and different music of their time. So I know my
Mhm.
dad's music and we listened to a lot of jazz and Sade and things of that nature while they would be chillaxing or hanging out.
So now you just hit on exactly the purpose of the show, is that when you're growing up or when we're growing up, we hear, experience, see. Sometimes it gets in us and we don't realize what's happening. The things that our ancestors, our parents are doing that become a part of us. I talk about music. My I remember the day when my daughter heard me singing a song, singing the words to one of the hip hop songs that they had at the time, and she was stunned. How do you know those words? I said because they took them from somebody I know. You know, and so that was when the generations merged for a moment. Now, for the benefit of growth, what I'd like to know are the things that you picked up from an ancestor or during your time, whatever that is, as a young person that you carry with you today. Um, Jackie, a memorable moment that changed your life. What was that?
Wow. A memorable moment that actually changed my life. Um, I guess it would have to be this one because this is a moment that I just relive over and over periodically, even though it happened years ago. But I remember the day that I graduated high school. And as I mentioned already, I was born into a family of 10, but I was actually raised by another family. But the families were always careful to keep in touch with each other. My sisters, I had six brothers and there were four girls. So there were three other sisters. The sisters lived in Gainesville. So it was only like a 45-minute drive. But when you're young, that seems like it's way across the world, right?
Hmm.
To go to Gainesville. So one of the things that I had always wanted was to be able to just spend so uninterrupted time with my three sisters. So my mom that raised me, I guess as a kind of graduation gift, gave me the opportunity to just go down and spend the week in Gainesville with my three sisters, who I've just never had that pleasure or that honor to do so, just have them all to myself. And I did. And it was the best time of my life. It was such an eye-opening time because I got to see them. One of them, I think, was married and they might have been dating, but I saw college campuses and learned about their careers. Just so many things that was really eye opening to me, and some things that I just had never experience. Like that, it was a little bit kind of like part of the country, where they lived, and so I got a chance to experience that. So I guess in terms of changing life for me, it was life changing in that it opened up for a high schooler, just going out into the world. It just kind of gave me a new perspective on life and on family, and also on careers, because I learned, they were different, careers. They were college folk. So it just kind of helped shape my perspective as a young adult, going into the next phase of my life. So it was really good that upon graduation, I got to encounter my family, who also gave me a new kind of education.
That's interesting, because just this past year, I believe it was last year, I contacted my first cousin who lived in New York, and I would visit for the summertime. She's exactly 10 years older than I am. And she was in advertising and worked for a major corporation and had a commercial on television that she could point to and say, I work on that campaign. And it occurred to me just within the last few months, I said, my cousin was actually my first business role model. So I picked up the phone and told her that. And that meant so much to her and to me to realize that, because there are certain things that I wanted to do that I would not have had any exposure to if it had not been, or that I am doing, I would not have had any exposure to had it not been for her explaining to me how that process worked. And when someone teaches you something, like your sisters, they become a part of you, not necessarily biologically, but spiritually, they become a part of you because they have taught you something that you carry with you. And those are why I call those magic moments, because they are magical as it relates to your future. Definitely. So Jada.
Yes, ma'am.
Same question.
Same question. Oh gosh. So for me, I didn't say in the beginning, but I am the oldest of, it's 5 of us. It's 4 of us that lived in the same house. And I'm the oldest of the 4 that lived in the house. So, I'm the big sister, basically. And I would love when my older sister would come over and get her turn to be the oldest sister. So I could like back down and act like one of the younger kids. But with saying that, my dad, I would always want to go out and do different things, get a whole bottom grill of goals. Yes, believe it or not. Back then, yes, I did. I wanted the grill, I wanted the pagers or the tongue rings, all the teenage fad things that you go through, right? But my dad, being a military man, God bless the dad, he would always like make me do an assignment. But I knew as long as I made good grades, which in his world was all A's, and I continued to be an athlete and I researched it, it was like, oh, he's just going to tell me yes, right? So I would be like, I get whatever I want. He's just going to tell me yes. The answer is always going to be yes. Go to dad. The answer is going to be yes. But in that, he would say, if I came and asked, like when I wanted the grill, or the tongue ring, he would make me go and research it, look it up. What is that all about? What's going to happen? What is the process? Like, he would always say, what does that look like? What's the process? So what are you going to be doing again? And I would really have to go. I would really come back and be give a presentation to my dad, but not really picturing I'm giving a presentation to my dad. But somehow I would go back. I would tell him what I was thinking. This is what I want to do. And he would say, okay, Jada, my personality, every other week, it was probably something. Because I've just changed my mind all the time. So this week, whatever it was, okay, Jada, yes, I got them. Now I just got to go back and figure it all out. And, then my nerves would start working because I got to put all this together and, come back in there and present it to him. And I would come back, I would muster up the confidence, the strength to come back and be like, Dad, I don't think that was a good idea. I think I changed my mind. Majority of the time, that's really what he wanted. And it took me a while to figure that out because, you know, if I don't take care of this tongue ring right, the whole end of it might get swollen and fall off. And I think my face looked fine how it is, you know, but he would help me come to those decisions by myself. So he taught me those things, you know, go look it up. It's okay to think and want to do all these different crazy things, but know what it is that you're getting yourself into. Then to know how to be able to speak on it or articulate it, you know. And then 3, is it really what you're trying to do? Or is it really going to be a part of your ultimate goal in the end? Because he was like, Jada, you want to be so much a businesswoman, this person, that person. Okay, you know, every other day was something. I'm an artist. So I find myself actually doing that with my own kids, with Winter and Gary, and, you know, they'll come to me with their homework. They'll expect me to check it and do it for them, or not so much do it for them, but to be very hands-on with the homework. And so I just slow them down, and it's like, hey, what kind of grade do you want to make? Do you know what an A looks like? Do you want to make the F or the A? So go do the work. So you go figure that out and then come back to me and let me see what you come up with, and then we can go from there. So I just taken that from my dad. Okay, I heard you. Now you go think about what you just told me, go figure it out, and then come back and we can see if we can come up with something together. And I think that has, I've been able to use that from my dad in my personal life, and my friendships or relationships, and in my business as well. And thank you for making me remember those stories, because he's probably laughing in heaven right now.
And those are the moments that I cherish. I mean, do you realize what you just said? That is just priceless. And as it relates to the show, he had the wisdom, you had the energy to go find out what was up, and then you learn. And now you're in a position of wisdom as you teach others. It's a continuum. That was cool, and I like that. My mother had a small portion of that I hated. I really didn't like it. I was angry with her. You know, I'd say, well, what does this mean? And she'll say, go look it up. It would just irk me like nobody's business. You know the answer. Why don't you just tell me? Go look it up. Get the dictionary. Well, that meant that my SAT score was pretty good.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Hey, I know how to negotiate, and I can sell water to a fish.
That is cool. Okay, so your chosen professions. What was it when you started, and what is it like today? How has it evolved? And either one of you can start.
Well, I've chosen, when I first started out, my career was in logistics. And I had a great experience being a BDM, a business development manager, and going out and meeting and talking with a lot of executives or leaders, or just that problem solving, solution solving type atmosphere. I loved it. And I took that and switched over to being an entrepreneur and aligning myself in industries that allow me to use those same skills. As far as I'm a healthcare insurance agent, I do financial services as far as tax consulting and tax preparations. And then I talk. I love hosting and doing blog talks and podcasts. And I think that just me using the talents and the energy of just speaking and able to use my personality and connecting the dots and actually caring about people, about my community, and about my work allows me to work with so many different people, from local business owners to your neighborhood business owner to different business people in different industries, and has allowed me to come into circles like NABWIC, where I get to work with Jackie Perry and co-chair with her on these larger organizations and on these events, and really get that mentorship and learning from people like Jackie and also yourself, things like that. I hope I answered the question. I get a little excited, you know that already.
Yes, you're doing it absolutely wonderful. In fact, that was nice that you honored Jackie in that way, and myself included.
Yeah, it's just allowed me to be able to transition and be that. I always call myself the chameleon, and I love being the chameleon in everything that I do. So
what are some of the colors and stripes you've learned from Jackie?
Well, the main thing is be respectful of everyone's time. If a meeting starts at 5, we're starting at 5. If it's over at 5:30, hey, it's 8. We done at 5:30. You can go back and listen to the recording. You can call me at this time, but we have to keep it aligned. No, I'm just joking. Jackie's very organized. I love that. I love her tone. She has the great way of the church lady voice to bring you back in and to get everybody back on point, because we can get distracted. I've really learned how to. She's actually one of those people that made me want to master myself more. As in, I studied Think and Grow Rich, and she made me want to master myself. And one of those things is because she's just so disciplined. She has that true poker face, that poker voice and everything. And she's just got that, all right, baby, well, we'll talk about it. And yes, we'll get to it. Now, it might be the craziest thing she's not going to do. You'll never know. You will never know. You will never know. So, where I'm throwing eyes, I'm going to come back with a sweet comment. So, yes. I'm growing to be more like Jackie. Zip it.
So, Jackie, I know you enjoyed that moment, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure did. I'm very flattered, especially coming from such a young person as Miss Jada, who is in her own right just very, very talented.
Yes,
I just love her.
Okay, so it looks like the three of us are working with our young people too. My daughter is actually a social media manager, and she's managing my social media, so that's kind of cool to be in business with my daughter as well. So when you see my YouTube channel, and as it grows and get blinged out, just know that the virtual knockout is the one that's doing it. Yeah, one of the things that Jada did for me, and the fact that I was hosting Think and Grow Rich, no, wrong one. Hosting Blog Talk Radio, and that's an example of why it was time for Jada to come along. And after a while you do get tired, and even though you may love something, and if you don't have anybody that can follow behind you and pick it up and make you feel like it was worth the time that you did put in it, it's depressing. So when Jada came on the scene and took off like a rocket, I said, all right.
She did take off like a rocket, didn't she?
She sure did.
Yeah.
And it's a delight to see. And okay.
No, I was going to say, not only in that, and I'm sorry, this is just a Jada moment, because we're talking about, the wisdom and being passed down. I hope she don't mind my saying this. I think timing is everything, because as you said to Ursula, you had given a lot of time and years to Blog Talk, and you still do. But like you said, so same thing. I've been forever on marketing, and actually I worked with Jada previous to her becoming the co-chair of marketing. We were connected with NABWIC before on the marketing committee. And again, it's a timing thing, because I think at that time, because of things that were going on in her life or whatever, she was somewhat inconsistent at that particular time. But after maybe a couple of years or so, I got a call from her one day, and she just called me. She's like, "Hey," that excited voice. Yeah, I've been thinking about marketing. You guys, I'm ready to jump back in. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know about this now. But anyway, so like she said, I put on my poker face. It's like, yeah, okay, Jada, we're gonna do this. I tell you what, though, since that time, it has been consistency all the way, nonstop. She has exceeded my expectation. And you can just see the growth. And I know you're going to say something about it. You can just see the evolution in her growth and maturity, not only with business, but with other initiatives or with the NABWIC organization. And, sometimes she'll be interviewing people on the show and she'll go like, I don't see how you do it. I look at her now, I'm like, I don't see how she does it. But anyway, that's that youth for you. Praise the Lord. Thank God we have her.
Thank you.
So I'm just really honored to have her as a co-worker and a friend.
So the value of this moment reminds me of when I was conducting a workshop for a family reunion. And I asked, as an exercise, one person to pick somebody in the room to tell them something they did not know about themselves and how they impacted them. And that person did that. And then whoever that person picked had to do the same thing. So it leaped around the room until it got to two elderly sisters. And they were the last ones. So they had to talk about somebody that wasn't in the room anymore. And that was their mother who had passed on. And they shared with us that the mother would sing them to sleep. Yeah, okay. And then they said she would wake them up in the morning with a song. That's different. And as they tried to remember the song, we watched these two people transform. They morphed into their mother at the same time. Their voices change, their demeanor changed, the look on their faces changed, because what they both saw in their eyes, their mind's eye, was their mother. Their mother was just as much in front of them as we are in front of each other right now, in terms of being able to see the image of the person. They saw her. And because they did, they brought her into that room. And we got to experience their mother. And the value of that for the people in the room, who were mainly descendants of this woman, got to see somebody then that they may have never seen before, because she passed before they were born or before they could remember. And that's the value of sharing these kinds of moments, because they're locked in our heads. But if we don't share them, the person does not have the benefit of learning and growing and holding it close to them. And, Jada, I love this moment because it became a Jada moment. Well, now you know how we feel about you. And with all that energy, hey, go make it happen, girl.
Thank you. It's so motivating and inspiring, for real. And yes, thank you, Jackie, for riding the wave of that 26-year-old Jada to 10 years later. I was still figuring it out, wanting to be professional and young at the same time, whatever young was at that time. So yes, and I knew it. And thank you for being honest with me, but not being that older person that sometimes we have in mind that comes across and beats you up, beat you over the head, or talks to you in a condescending manner. You've always been inspiring. And like I said, okay, baby, just come on. All right, we'll talk about that, in her famous chuckle.
So, okay. There are two moments that brings to mind. One is when my grandmother was coaching me. And I wrote about this in my first book, At Sola's Feet. And I would say to her, Grandma, I love you so much. I don't think I could stand it if you died before me. She said, uh-huh. I said, Grandma, I love you so much. I don't think I could stand it if you died before me. Mm-hmm. And I guess I said it one time too many because I said, Grandma, I love you. I don't think I can stand it if you died before me. And she said, you know, if you really mean that, God is a good God. Get on your knees and pray, and he'll hear you, and he'll answer your prayer. I thought about that thing. She was 68, and I was 10. I said, uh-huh. I never made that prayer, but
Then you started saying the uh-huh.
but here's the moral of that story is that she, and prompted by what you said, Jada, she did not berate me. She didn't make me feel bad about something that was the worst thing I could have asked her. And that was to precede her in death. She'd had that happen. She'd lost some children before, and she wanted no parts of that. It was not the natural order of things to lose a child and a grandchild before you. So she just made me think about it. And now I didn't have as much cool. My moment like that with one of my daughters came when she just had on way too much makeup, and I was at my wit's end, and I looked at her and I was screaming all in her face, and she looked at me and she laughed, and I said, have this child lost her last mind? I'm screaming, which I don't normally do because I don't like getting angry, right? But I was done, and she's laughing. And then she looked at me and she said, Ma, and got to realize it was kind of out here then. She said, Ma, with your hair like that and you screaming like that, you look like a lion. It stopped the moment dead cold. But the conversation that took place after that was that she was an emerging teenager, and we had conversations about adult versus teenager and right versus wrong, opinion versus, you know, the right to do certain things, and when you do certain things it provokes me, and when I'm provoked I do things that provoke you. We had our first real adult conversation, and all because the child stood there, looked at me and laughed, risked her friggin' life to laugh at me at that moment. But I didn't start where my grandmother did with a bit of wisdom, but we kind of ended up there. All right. So now, as it relates to your career, Jackie, tell us about some of the things that you have done in the past. And just know that I am interested because I had a career in computers too. Spent 20 years in GTE Data Services, and it evolved quite a bit. I started and when they had punch cards, and it was the last of the punch cards. I think they were changing out the machines as I came on board. And I remember dropping that deck of cards and how traumatic that was. Going through structured programming and having a called module that was called by 16 different programs, and having an error in that one module show up in 16 different places. So those are my memories as it relates to career evolution. And there's more, but I'm just setting an example of the kinds of things that I was talking about. So when you answer the question, you see where I'm headed with that. How has your industry changed?
Well, it's, if you're talking about the area of technology, I mean, man,
just so you know, it could be either one because you're in marketing and you're in technology. So whatever
yeah,
your choice is.
yeah. So I think things in this day and time, I mean, they can change almost overnight, when it comes to industry trends and things that are happening. For me, though, it's interesting. Most people probably don't realize that, well, I think I kind of fell into both of my careers. I'll go back to the previous question that you had asked. I thought that after I graduated, I might want to be a teacher, or at one time I did really want to be an actor, but so didn't make either one of those. But in my career, I found myself wanting to help people get better. And, and they say knowledge is power. And I noticed that throughout my career, even in the management programs and things, I would want to create things and then teach people. And so I actually would develop these training classes, and I worked for Prudential Healthcare, which was a Fortune 500 company. And I did develop a training module for customer service. This was years ago, that got adopted by the whole company.
Right.
And so anyway, so training was one of those fortes. And then I did like seeing the faces of people, as they had that aha moment, which Ursula, I'm sure you do too. You have that aha moment. You're like, okay, they got it. That's wonderful. So I kind of started out doing that, and then of course it morphed into business. I guess I'm taking a long way to say this, but anyway. But then when I got into technology, it was because I was managing a group of people that had to do. Now we talk about all this virtual stuff, and you do stuff online, you take classes online. Back some years ago, we were kind of like the forerunner where we did distance learning. I had a team that was developing that. This was 20 years ago or so more before it even got popular. So we were there, we were ahead of our times, I would say, but it's interesting to see where we are now. We fast forwarded, and so there's so much you can do, so many mediums in which you can get that training, whether it's through your phone or your watch or whatever, technology just evolves so quickly. So it's exciting to see that. And another interesting thing is that I never went to school for this area of technology or whatever, or even the graphic design or the marketing kind of stuff. I learned it all, believe it or not, from my kids who actually were going to college, and they were into all of that. And we would get into projects. I want to use their expertise on something that perhaps I was doing at work. So that's how I learned, and that's how I got into the industry. And like the art of video making, for instance, I've been a part of this church for like 30 years, and I've always been a part of like the media team or whatever. Well, my son was a part of that committee. We were making videos back before they had all the electronic things like Adobe Premiere and stuff. We would actually be taking the camera, doing frame by frame recording. If you messed up, you had to stop and, start over. So it's just amazing to see how, yes, there has been such a evolution, but an evolution of myself in the way I've learned, because I've never gone to school for anything, to get skilled at any of that. But my kids actually became my teachers. And so that's how I developed proficiency. But to answer your question, it's amazing, though, to see how things have grown in terms of where we are and how we're focused, the way we can do things faster, more efficiently, and with a lower cost. And one of the people that I do admire is Elon Musk with the Tesla organization. The fact that here's a guy with his private company that can put people into space at half the cost, what it would cost the government to do. I think it's some wonderful lessons that we can learn from, people like him and organizations like his as we, seek to better our own industries and enterprises. But anyway, let me shut up. I don't know if I even.
Well, yeah, quite frankly, because you're taking me to two different ends of my life. One is when I was in college, we well, I was in the theater department at that particular time, and I did a production of Porgy, and it was a musical production. The guy that handled the music for me um, was quite talented, still is. And the computer department, no, not computer, the theater department had gotten a synthesizer. And our production was the first production to ever use a synthesizer in that theater. And we had thunder and lightning, and it was just amazing. And nobody had heard anything like that up until our production. And, it's not something that people talk about, but it was real. It happened. And I was there, and I was my troupe was the catalyst behind making that happen. And Vinod McKinney was the guy that was behind the scenes, making it all happen. And he was such a perfectionist. I mean, such a perfectionist. And it came off really well. And when there was something else, you were talking about training and virtual training. I was in charge of documentation and training for GTE Data Services, and I was a champion for computer-based training, CBT as we called it. And I'm curious, does EPSS, EPSS, I think it was Electronic Performance Support Systems, did that come along? Were you involved with that process during that time, or know anything about that?
Not with the EPSS. Definitely, of course, we're familiar with the CBT training. Most folks are, but no, not the latter.
So EPSS was Electronic Performance Support Systems, and that was when we were coming into the ability to take handheld devices and put training on those handheld devices. Mm-hmm. And the one that comes to mind is AWAS. I think it was a system where the people would go up the poles, and they would need information, and they would have it in this handheld device. And so the training department that I ran programmed those devices so that it would emulate what they actually went through when they were on those poles or when they were about to go up. And that's how the training was done. And when you think back on what that was and what it took to make that happen versus what people can do today, it's amazing. Amazing. So, okay, Jada, you can get in on this conversation and you can pivot to your industry or however you want to do that, or join in on that one.
Yeah, of course. Well, for me, it would more so be the industries that I come from, with the background in logistics, and then the type of licenses that I hold now, being licensed in multiple states. Though my base is Miami, Florida, I have clients all over. And coming from that logistics background, we were pretty much ahead of the times, where I've always been used to having virtual meetings, having a satellite meeting, or being able to connect with people that wouldn't be, physically in my face and things of that nature, or getting their trust because we house or I hold so much sensitive type of information. So it's just great being able to see the actual customer base and the rest of the industries that may not have been heavily so virtual oriented pre-COVID pretty much catch up. Mm-hmm. I've been doing taxes and things of that nature virtually, and have these virtual systems and all of these things. But, back then it would be like, I would have to explain to the client, yes, it's okay. You can trust me, firewalls and the safety and the security of the internet and all this other stuff. And I only have it on this Wi-Fi line and woo, right? Well, now since 2020, when COVID happened, hey, if you were already up and running and used to that virtual world, people were running to me. Yeah. So, and I didn't have to go so much back to explaining. And, I love my TLC, but not when you're trying to keep up on the schedule. So I could cut some of that time out with doing the TLC of getting them nurturing and explaining how this is going to work. And you really don't have to come into my office. So it's really helped out there. So I just love it. And of course, the different organizations that I'm a part of, we've just always been blessed and fortunate to be a part of a group that I guess also my age, where we've tried to stay ahead of or been ahead of the game. I've already been playing in these little realms. So it's just amazing and fun. Now it's like I'm getting to the fun part of it, because everybody in the world is doing the same thing. It's no competition, it's more than enough out here for us all to eat. It's just sitting in this computer chair right here, being on the camera, ready to go on Zoom. Hey, Miss Ursula, Miss Jackie called me, a customer called me. Hey, what's your link? I got you. I don't have to do so much explaining, hit the link in your text message, hit the link on your emails, things of that nature. So it really makes it easier. And then with DocuSign being an everyday thing now, before people would be like, oh, Docu, did you get it? I would, no matter how much I said, I got it. I would just hit submit. I got the follow-up email. I would always still have to get a phone call and explanations of, I see it. Yes, you did it right. Okay, just give me so I'm just loving this time, and I can't wait till next year, because I just know it's going to get bigger and better. But always, of course, I've just had to be, or I would encourage anyone else young to be ready for the opportunity. Like Miss Jackie, she learned from her kids. I learned this stuff from corporate America. Whoever would have thought that I would have been able to use these things from the logistics industry over in construction, and then in speaking, and then on my own endeavors of however I choose to use them. I use my daughter too, Miss Jackie. I don't put together anything. I have my own STEM program at home, right? I have my own STEM program. Thanks to COVID.
I love it.
So this desk that my computer's sitting on, my daughter, she put it all together. Except for, she will tell you she just needs your manpower to make the screws a little tighter. But anything comes in the house, Winter Williams is putting it together.
Oh yeah, I love learning from my kids. For someone who's older, certainly it like they say, kids keep you young, right? Yeah. And young in learning, young in doing. But you mentioned something about this time that we're in. I'm loving it too, because we are so busy. And think about it, when you had those meetings, man, you had to run around town from meeting to meeting, in and out of cars, hot, cold, whatever. But now it's just...
Now, just imagine running back and forth there. Oh my gosh, I have to have a whole washcloth kit in the car.
I know it, right? So you just run in the room, switch your jacket, get in front of the camera. It couldn't be...
Look, I can reach down right now, look. Right here, I have a suit jacket right here.
Yeah. So it couldn't get any better. In fact, when I got up, I know y'all saw it. I got this other one hanging on the so it's made it more convenient and certainly more productive for people to be able to conduct business. And and I don't think we're ever going to go back the other way, not too much anyway. So I think this is going to always be a part of our life and our businesses, and a part of who we are now. It's great.
And on that note,
sorry.
Okay.
I just get a kick out of, because my business, your book of business grows, right? And those people are also aging in my book of business, right? So I just get a kick out of when I get my 70-year-old clients that's like, I did it. I hit the link. I did it. Thank you so much, Jada. Oh, I love you, love you, love you. I'm going to be yours to the end, just because they feel like I taught them a new technology technique that their grandchild, somebody didn't teach them. And they were actually able to do it with me without having to wait on the grandchild or the daughter or whatever to come over there and show them. I take hit the link. I'm going to text you. You can receive text messages. Okay. Now listen, when you get this text, I'm going to stay on the phone with you. Open it up. Okay. Hit the link. Okay. And then when they actually do it and they call me, it's like, it's very rewarding. So I just take my highs on the little things.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and I think that's where the three of us, are the same in that respect, because I am loving this time frame as well for all the same reasons that you are. My business is growing like nobody's business, and because I'm able to sit get organized, and reach out for things that make a difference. It's not, I don't give my time to the road, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of which, this year, 2021, I started it out with a saying, and it's get it done in 21. Oh, I like that. Okay. So I added getting it done in 21, and then got it done in 21. And then, and I mind you, I got these website domain names. And then I checked, and nobody had get it done in 21 days. So I got that too.
Okay.
Still have to build them out, but the concepts I'm working on. And one concept is write a book in 21 days. And I had to figure out, could that be done? How? And getting clients to get that done and have something of value. And it meets my goal of getting people published, and as many people published as possible, not just the rich and famous, but those with just one little idea that needs to be shared. So that's my getting it done, or get it done in 21 idea and mission for the year. As we close out, Jada, what's your get it done in 21 focus? And then tell people how to get in touch with you.
Okay, well, my get it done in 21 focus is creating the space for my dreams to become my reality. And it is doing more stuff like this. Being on here and speaking with women and leaders like yourself, Miss Ursula and Miss Jackie, continuing to be a contributing member in the community, just getting those resources out. And me getting it done is taking my business to the next level instead of, just maintaining it as we've had in 2020. I've gotten over the maintaining it. I know I can maintain it. I'm still here. I did not have to close up shop or none of that. So getting it done for me is going after those contracts and those relationships and partnerships that's going to continue to help me grow my business.
All right.
And getting that book with you in 21 days.
All right. Now, so how do people get in touch with you?
And you can get in touch with me always, always, always. You can call me directly, 786-702-1005. You can go to my website at www.kisslsinc. That's KISLS Inc. Or you can shoot me an email. We live with our phones in our hands these days. My email is info, that's INFO, at KISLS.com.
All right. Thank you, Jada. It's been a delight having you on the show. And Miss Jackie.
Wow, that's a good question, Ursula. My getting it done in 21 days would be sort of a paradox. For me, it's we're currently in the middle of working on a joint venture on the government side. And definitely my goal is if we can get that solidified and done in 21 days, I would definitely be happy. So I definitely want to do that. And also the other thing for me, I know people don't like to use the word retirement really. And I don't use it in the truest sense of the word, but I guess in 21 days, I like to feel like I've placed the business in such a position where I don't really have to run it, because in 21 days, I just want to be able to do projects that I just want to do. If I feel like doing them, I'll do them. If I don't, I won't. That kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to the next, and I love that, to the next 21 days.
Man, right. I need to get on that plan.
And so do you want people to get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Or is it that you want to work on your own project right now?
Well, since the 21 days isn't up yet, yes, people, if they want to get in touch with me, I think the easiest thing would be if they contacted me at my email address. Well, actually, just, hey, if anybody want to get in touch with me, just call me, 904-866-3828. That's 904-866-3828.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. That's been wonderful. I've so enjoyed this show. I mean, I don't even know how long we went because it didn't matter. I just wanted to talk to you because you were just doing
It was great to
having some
talk.
great conversation. It was just wonderful. Thank you both. And for you who are watching us now, thank you because you make it all worthwhile. Because if we impact your life for a moment, then it was worth it. And to share the wisdom and the young legend with you today is what we do. And you can contact me at Sula too, because we help you make old new in everything we do. 813-368-1628, Sula2.com. And you're here, so click the links below, like, share, and click the